this is Aromie here. Welcome back to our life, Baxter DLC. We're here at the ice cream truck with him. And if he picks the ice cream sandwich, then yeah, homie hasn't really changed that much. If it was the same truck from 5 years ago, that wouldn't surprise you in the slightest.
Huh.
You found it. You caught a brief sparkle in his eye and a hint of a throw in his voice that instantly caught you off guard. Together you darted ahead to flag down the ice cream truck. After a minute, the side window snapped open. Hello, what kind of sweets do you two want today? Baxter stepped even closer, flashing his dazzling grin. Hello, appreciate you stopping for us. Shuffling forward, you nodded. The woman on the other side of the window smiled softly. Of course, people of all ages love ice cream. It's a little joy that brings us all together. It's very true. Would it be possible to get an ice cream sandwich? Oh, and some napkins too, if possible. Some things don't change. Can do. Huh, you still preferred those. Something about that memory made your chest tighten. You weren't quite sad, but the sentiment wasn't happy either. So I'm bittersweet, bro. Baxter graciously slid to the side so you could order next. You could feel his curiosity poking at your skin. And you? She leaned slightly out of the truck. You hastily glanced over the menu. It was even more sun-bleached, but the shapes were distinct enough to tell apart, even with the washed-out colors. Where's my ice cream with a face on it? A cartoon face popsicle, yep. Sounds great. After that, you and Baxter paid for your frozen treats. The lady gave a toothy smile. Thank you so much. Alright, give me 1 minute, is what she said before ducking out of sight. In her absence, neither you nor Baxter uttered a word. The only noise between you was the faint sounds of the woman rummaging through her own truck. Then, just as promised, she returned about a single minute later. Baxter retrieved a desired ice cream sandwich and a handful of white paper napkins. The woman extended an arm out to you next, passing your cartoon face popsicle. Holding onto your cartoon face popsicle, you beamed. The ice cream woman chuckled, delighted by your reaction. Have a fantastic evening. I'll be enjoying mine much more than with this. You're welcome. The woman laughed at his nice necessities, nice teas, nice ties. Don't know. And then latched up the window. You waved as the truck roared to life before puttering along the street.
Well,
I suppose we should start finding our way back. Dude. Can we talk? When can we talk? Never? I just want to talk. Baxter strode leisurely along with his free hand in his pocket, and the other carefully pinching his treat. You kept up with him, sampling your own frozen dessert. Baxter waited for you to complete your first taste. The corner of his mouth tugged into an all too familiar smirk. Don't do this to me. I see your preferences have remained the same. Yours too. Yes, some tastes endure longer than others.
What do you think?
Are you enjoying it this time? You're not wearing a tiny smile.
Glad to hear it.
Baxter continually took another bite of his ice cream sandwich and returned to his own thoughts. It struck you that as long as Baxter was sated with his dessert, he wasn't running off. For the first time in a long, long while, the two of you might actually be able to talk. Why do you only choose rock? You changed a lot. Why did you just stop talking to me? This is not a conversation we should be having. So, do you still dance?
No.
Not competitively. Actually, I haven't even kept up with it as a hobby. These days, it only ever comes up with my clientele. His gaze trailed off in the distance. I love dancing, but unfortunately there isn't room for everything. I imagine you must have dealt with similar situations in your adult life by now. Yeah, like you. Apparently we don't have time for each other. You stared straight ahead at the empty road and thought about it. He was right. Adulthood brought hard changes, and yet it seemed impossible to separate dancing and Baxter in your mind. Slowly you nodded. He might not have seen. Having said that, I can't complain. There was a rather low chance that my love of dance was going to be utilized in my actual profession. Yet, here we are.
Not bad.
Silver linings and all that. Why do you only choose rock? It's a dumb question, but... Oh, that's an unexpected query, is it? Yeah, that's not normal. That's not a normal thing to take such a committed stance on. I've been wondering about it this whole time. Truthfully, it's my favorite option out of the bunch. A nice fist. Simple, effective. Baxter's free hand turns into the aforementioned representation of a rock just long enough for you to see it, then his fingers loosened. But rather than why I choose rock out of 3, I imagine you're more intrigued on why I only use one in general. Yeah.
Well...
I've done it about as long as I can remember. It made the game more enjoyable in my youth. The petty types of decisions that were best suited to be decided with randomness mattered little to me. It was far more amusing to see who would use the advantage they had to win, and who would be willing to take the loss, and why they would seem to do so. But how would they already know that you like rock to take advantage of you, or not take advantage of you? Baxter glanced towards the distant sky. At the bare minimum, I'm not that much of a brat any longer.
To be honest.
As an adult, I use it to mainly get away with not making decisions of my own. Whoever is playing with me has a responsibility to win or lose because what they're up against is preordained. I don't even need to choose which symbol my hand takes. It's easier that way. Oh, so he's just letting people choose for him. Alright, I don't know how many questions we're able to ask him. Why did you become a wedding planner of all things? I'm genuinely curious. Baxter held on to your question for several more moments. He closed his eyes consideringly. Let's see, I received a degree in business management after all. I always assumed working with fellow employees within a company would be preferable to dealing with the wider public. However, in practice, I found that event planning best suited my strengths. I'm fortunate that, thanks to my upbringing, I happen to be well acquainted with formality and what it takes to authentically achieve it for an event. It's a unique kind of direct experience to wield. Additionally, I deal with the high level of control and detail work one must take in a stressful event. When it comes to work, I absolutely can make decisions. It's only in my personal life where I lack conviction. I just answered all my questions right there, that fucking final sentence. And that's most suited and burst with different people rather than a long-term position in a consistent group. You can easily get sick of someone who needs everything to be just so. Baxter finally paused to breathe. You could sense his focus trailing across her furrowed brow, and that only made it worse. His appraising response was a barrier rather than an answer. My job makes me happy. The ups and downs are worth it. Oh. I enjoy people at their most joyful, and knowing that I contributed to making it happen. At least ideally, they'll be joyful on their wedding day. I've long since realized how straining and unpleasant the whole planning process is. It never seems to matter how much I try to smooth out the process. It all happens in such a frantic flurry, one can scarcely keep up. But when the day comes, and if I've done my job right, the entire event will be an unforgettable moment. And once it's done, it's done.
So
I believe you can see why this position was a fitting match. I see. The thrill of preparing and the stress of it all, he likes that. And then when it's done, he can just walk away. Doesn't have to look back. Very fitting job for you, Baxter. You painted a clear picture of his thought process. You had no idea how to respond, so you inclined your head instead. Technically, he hasn't changed much then. You haven't changed much.
yes.
I have to agree. I don't feel like I've changed in the slightest. He only changed out his appearance-wise. I'm an actual resident of California now, and despite living here for nearly a year, I haven't so much as dipped my toes into the ocean. I'm still far too nervous for that. Embarrassingly, I'm not a beach man like Terry. I'm not even the bee man anymore. He calls me Baxter. Former bee man's voice grew quieter. That level of transparency didn't last long. Baxter quickly changed topics, but his sadness lingered in his eyes. My taste in ice cream hasn't evolved, and neither has my ideas for outings.
Truthfully.
I can say that I've improved some talents over the years and found a less eye-catching sense of style, but for anything meaningful, there's been no growth. He was right in some ways. Baxter was a diamond that showed different facets? What facet? I don't know. In the light. If the gem spun, you might see parts you hadn't before, but it was never something entirely new. Baxter Ward was still the man you met 5 years ago. His lips twisted bitterly, but he fixed that with a bite of ice cream. He held the sweetness on his tongue before swallowing. Don't mind me and my ramblings. Why did you have to stop talking to me? Even now you're keeping yourself at a distance? What's the point of all this? Isn't it hard to intentionally avoid people for no reason? Why can't we stay friends? I can't understand. This is all so sad. I know. Baxter's step dragged. Apparently he needed to physically distance himself now that you tried to close the emotional gap. I've asked myself similar questions, believe it or not. Have you? Baxter took a deep and steadying breath, then ran his fingers along the edge of his swooped bangs.
You need to understand.
Ichigo, I do want to be entirely clear. You are wonderful. No doubt. No.
You need to
Never
understand.
doubt that. Sorry. What happened? I do exactly that. Everyone... what? What happened? I do exactly that to everyone who fortunately crosses my path. That? You mean like fucking leave? The acquaintances I made in college, dancing partners, the friends I had since childhood, my parents, though that is an entirely different story. The point of the matter is, excluding those I interact with regularly due to work, I have no relations whatsoever. That's simply the way it goes. He found his word incredibly hard to believe. Nothing was simple about his explanation. Baxter cut things off there. He was not willing to deal with that part of himself. But surprisingly, he also didn't take it out on you as he had any other time you tried to get personal. The topic just drifted and you let it. It left a truce between you both in that moment, and for the evening, you could make peace with that. Could I? He cuts people off and it doesn't matter who you are. It's basically what he's telling me. That he's just gonna cut you off, doesn't matter who you are. Because he cut his parents off, which I'm assuming is like personal family drama. But he also cuts friends off. So he's literally alone, like a lone wolf. The two of you continue your path to Jude and Scott's house, surrounded by the end of day ambience of crickets and distant cars. You stole a glance in his direction. Somehow Baxter still hadn't finished his child-sized ice cream sandwich. You can't help but wonder what was happening inside his head. Since he'd returned, everything came with a thick layer of fog to trudge through. It was only yesterday when Baxter was begging to be anywhere else on the planet than by your side for a little while. And now he's trying to stretch this walk for as long as possible. Was it because of him or because of you? Were you both doing something? Would any of this even matter by the day after tomorrow? Did it even matter right now? Time had run out to say anything else. Baxter plopped the last bite of his treat into his mouth and crumbled the wrapper up. He was finished with this. I'm so depresso. Let's leave him before he can leave us. That was a gotcha moment. Like, you're always running away from your problems, but what if I run away from you first? Baxter tidied himself as well as he could with the cheap paper napkins. He didn't use them all and offered the remaining ones to you. Take it. Just whatever. Thanks. You stashed the napkins in your pocket. Baxter's they keep using this word, I don't know how to pronounce it. Smile didn't change.
Thank you.
Thank you for accompanying me, Ichigo. As we can both see, my card's right over there. I won't keep you any longer. Good luck with the centerpieces. I'm sure they'll turn out wonderfully. I hope so. Bye then. Goodbye, Michiko. He got into his vehicle for real and was gone again. After an exceedingly long break to see him out, you returned to the house. The door unlocked with a twist of your wrist. The sight earned a grateful sigh. It was a lucky gift of fate that the front door was left open. No one had checked since you were gone. You were able to slip inside and rejoin the others without any extra weirdness. Or at least that's what you thought. Miranda, Jude, and Scott stopped what they were doing to stare at entrance. They must have heard the door close. Awkward.
Hey.
Jude at least didn't have any interest in asking you probing questions. He punctuated his greeting with an easy smile and resumed the silk flower arrangements.
Wow.
The missing Michiko has magically appeared. Were you talking to Baxter? Yes. He folded his arms across his chest and watched you with an honest curiosity. Unlike his soon-to-be husband, he couldn't just let the delay slide without mention. Yeah, we talked for a little while. We were catching up. Miranda's shoulders relaxed hearing that news. After experiencing the impact of that summer firsthand, she understood the magnitude of that step.
Really?
You seriously did know him before. I did. And do. Sort of. He's still Baxter Ward. Letting that information sink in, Scott removed his glasses and idly cleaned the lenses on the end of his shirt. He slipped them on and then sheepishly scratched the top of his head. I know this Baxter stuff is old news for you, but I'm finding it hard to imagine. Sorry, that's because you're the only one of us who never met him before now. What? Huh? That comment was finally enough to pique Jude's curiosity. Miranda snickered as Jude put the silk flowers down. When did I meet him? Well, you didn't talk to him, but had to have seen him.
No clue.
That, I'm more confused. Remember my 19th birthday party? He was there. Your 19th birthday? Yes, he wasn't there as a guest. Baxter was one of the main people who put the whole party together. Jude's brows pinched and he gazed into the distance at nothing in particular. Searching the recesses of his mind, at least a spark between his eyes brought him back to the present. I remember one strange dude, the edgy kid who kept messing with the chocolate fountain. Why was he there? That's the real question. Your grin stretched ear to ear hearing Jude's recollection of Baxter. How typical of him. Somehow, seeing the strange monochrome man at his little sister's party didn't prompt him to say any questions then. It was never too late, though. Jude, that was Baxter.
What?
That was Baxter with the eyeballs? With the eyeballs. Jude repeated those words slowly. He needed a moment to process. Yes. Then he dropped, folding like a chair. You'd never heard him laugh that hard. He was shaking. In contrast, Scott kept his composure. The longer Jude continued, the higher Scott's brows raised. What do you mean with the eyeballs? What's wrong with his eyeballs? The Ecker siblings were both feeling with laughter at that point. You could only hope Baxter had driven far enough away not able to hear it himself. Nothing. There's never been anything wrong with Baxter's eyeballs, I think. Poor Scott. He never experienced Baxter's black and white glory in person. It wasn't something any of you could convey with mere words. Jude raised his palm to his heart and leaned against the couch cushions until his breath calmed down. Scott, you had to be there. He looked like a fool. Let's not hold it against him.
Guess so.
I'll take your word for it. Jude scooted to the edge of his seat and grinned widely at him. He gave Scott's leg a pet. Time to get to work. Flowers won't arrange themselves. No, they will not. Baxter. I don't know how this story is playing out. I'm assuming it's gonna wrap up once these two get married. Because I think that's the whole main plot. And then, subplot is Baxter and I reminiscing our fucking past, and that's about it. I don't know how they're gonna get together based off of that. But anyway, thank you guys for watching today's episode. Stay beautiful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.